Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, presents the official podcast of Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On today's program, we'll give you the latest news from the world of University of Georgia athletics and more. And now, from the broadcast studios of Dawgs on Demand, here's your host, Chris Hall.
Chris Hall here for Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And it's good to have you with us on our program today. And we're very pleased to have with us a very busy man for this time of the year, obviously. Gary Stokan, who is on our program today. Gary is the CEO and the president of the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Of course, the Peach Bowl is the site of the upcoming college football playoff game between the University of Georgia and the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Gary, it's a great pleasure to have you on our program, and welcome to our program today.
Well, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate the opportunity and want to wish you and all your listeners a Merry Christmas.
Well, we appreciate that, and a Merry Christmas also to you and all of the Peach Bowl staff family. It's kind of an exciting time for you guys, but also I'm sure you're burning kind of the midnight oil in getting ready for the Peach Bowl that is coming up on New Year's Eve at 8 o'clock at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. You know, Gary, I was reading over your resume, and, you're a relatively young man. We'll give you that. But my word, you have done so much. You've been involved in a lot of good things in Georgia, a lot of things related to sports. How long have you been the CEO, and how long have you been associated with the Peach Bowl in Atlanta?
Yeah, I've been very blessed to be in sports my whole career, 44 years, starting back in coaching at North Carolina State. And this is my 25th year as CEO of the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. So, it's been a great run. The people of Atlanta have been fantastic, corporately, support-wise, as well as fan-wise. And I've been very blessed to be with a great board, a great staff, the best in the business, and wonderful volunteers as well.
Yeah, the Peach Bowl has been in existence now for 54 years. I'm old enough to remember the initial Peach Bowl game. Now, I don't remember who was involved in it, but I thought it was kind of cool that, we had that bowl in Atlanta called the Peach Bowl. I remember it very well. Of course, now the Peach Bowl has really been elevated in its status as a bowl game. It's one of the New Year's 6 bowls, which means that every 3 years the Peach Bowl hosts a college football playoff semifinal game. So that makes the Peach Bowl a pretty big deal. Talk a little bit about the impact that the Peach Bowl has now on college football and on the state of Georgia, your relationship with Chick-Fil-A and the charities that you guys support. It is pretty impressive.
Well, we've been blessed to have been founded back, as you mentioned, in 1968 to be a bowl game, the 9th oldest bowl game, created to give back. And unlike some other bowls like the Rose, the Sugar, the Cotton, the Orange, that were all created, probably 80 to 100 years before. They're probably going, the Rose Bowl is probably about 107 years old now,
wow.
So yeah. Almost double us. And but we were created to give back, and we do so humbly. We've maintained that mission by giving $60.9 million back to charity and foundation since 2002. And then for like the other bowls, to bring tourism to your town during the holidays, we do that as well. And during Labor Day weekend with our Chick-fil-A kickoff games and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl during the Christmas holiday, we'll create close to $100 million this year in economic impact. And our 3 events plus the SEC championship game will be 4 of the top 6 conventions in Atlanta. And Atlanta is the 4th largest convention town in the United States. So that's how important college football is to the city of Atlanta and to Georgia.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, of course, the College Football Hall of Fame is located in Atlanta as well. And and come New Year's Eve, of course, Atlanta, along with Glendale, Arizona, they're going to be the center of the universe for college football. Now, this year's Peach Bowl game will be played December 31st, starting at 8 o'clock. And what a matchup. You have number 1 Georgia against number 4 Ohio State. And I know those teams are already getting ready for this game. Obviously, preparations are underway to get ready to play this highly anticipated matchup. Now, I know those teams are getting ready, but your team at the Peach Bowl, I know, is getting ready for this game. I can't imagine the task of preparing for a game like this that has such a high profile, and the eyes of the college football world will be on this game on December 31st. So tell us, how are preparations going? Everything kind of falling into place for you guys?
Well, it's really been speedy around here with the announcement on December 4th of, as you mentioned, number 1 Georgia playing against number 4 Ohio State, two of the biggest brands in college football. The announcement of game day was made to come to Atlanta for the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl. The Big Ten Network will be here, the SEC Nation Network. And we've had both schools come to Atlanta already to walk through the hotels in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We've been to both campuses already to officially invite and do a press conference at Columbus and Athens. So it's been pretty much since December 4th, a lot of activity going on. But you try and get out in front. So through the month of November, we talked to the top 12 teams to go through our institutional guide about, all the particulars and the details and the schedules, so that when they are announced, if they are announced for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, we're ahead of the schedule and able to just execute at that point. So my staff does a great job, but it's long hours, but it's done with a lot of passion, because we really enjoy Southern hospitality and having a big impact on college football and creating a reward for players through our Live, Laugh, and Learn theme when they get here December 25th.
Yeah, and of course, from what I understand, Ohio State, I think if I remember correctly, you said in a news conference they got their tickets on Monday, sold out by Wednesday. Obviously, Georgia is going to travel very well to this game. It's standing room only tickets now available, I understand, or have been made available. So it's going to be jam-packed, isn't it?
Yeah, we should set a record for this game. We hold the record in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, hosting more people than the Super Bowl did when it was here. With our LSU versus Oklahoma semifinal in 2019, I think we had a little bit over 78,000 people in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And so this year we're going to use the expandable seats, which adds probably about 3,500 seats. We've added another 2,000 standing room only. So it's going to be loud and a lot of fireworks in Mercedes-Benz on December 31st for sure.
Now, if folks have never been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it is quite a venue for any kind of football game, with the Falcons or a bowl game or college football. It truly is an amazing edifice to watch a football game in. I think probably, and you probably will agree, Mercedes-Benz Stadium probably has the best sight lines for any seat in the stadium to have a good view of a football game. It was very well constructed, very well put together. Don't you think that's true?
Yeah, I really give Arthur Blank a lot of credit. He wanted to create a unique fan experience, and he really has. With, as you mentioned, the sight lines are the best, I think, in any stadium in the country. But he also added the concessions, which are very, very low prices, so that people can come to the facility and get a Coke for $1 or $2 and get a hamburger and French fries or chicken or whatever at very inexpensive cost, rather than, gouging people. So, and then, to put 100-yard bar and restaurant up on the top floor, where normally, that's the upper end zone seats and upper sideline end zone seats, where you really just have the bare necessities of concessions and maybe and some restrooms. He's really created a unique experience. So we're very blessed to have it in Atlanta, and again, very blessed to have the CFP semifinal this year in the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl.
This will be the third game that Georgia will play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season. Of course, they were in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game versus Oregon at the beginning of the season. Then Georgia won the SEC championship against LSU at Mercedes-Benz. And now they're playing in the Peach Bowl. The Bulldogs will be playing in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve. This, I understand, will be the first time that Ohio State has played in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So let's put on your college football fan hat just a moment. And I know you have to maintain some neutrality when it comes to the game. But what about, the Bulldogs feel very at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Do you think that's going to be an advantage for the Bulldogs?
Well, I've been around 25 years, and I've seen Ohio State travel to numerous bowl games, and they will be packed in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So each team gets 13,000 tickets. And as you mentioned earlier, Georgia sold them out in one day. Ohio State sold theirs out in 2 days. And I think we'll see a lot more Ohio State people than you may think in there. Because there's a large contingent living in Metro Atlanta, large contingent living in the Southeast. And on our trip up there, I know a lot of people said they were looking forward to driving down I-75 into Atlanta. So, and Ohio State has a lot to play for. They didn't think they were going to get in the playoffs. With USC losing, Ohio State jumped and got in number 4. Number 2, when you're a competitor, you want to play after you lose. They lost their last game to Michigan. They can't wait to get back on the field now. And everybody's 0-0 right now. You're in a playoff, so records don't matter right now. And thirdly, I think they'll get healthy. And lastly, they have a chance, if they were to win this game, they know that they could potentially, if Michigan were to win the Fiesta Bowl, they'd have an opportunity in the biggest stage in the national championship to avenge that loss to Michigan and beat their arch rival. So Ohio State has a tremendous amount to play for. They're the number 2 scoring offense in the country. Georgia's the number 2 scoring defense in the country.
Yeah.
And Georgia's looking to repeat, which is very, very difficult to do. They would really set a record, for back-to-back. And so Georgia has a tremendous amount to play for as well.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. It really is. And a lot of folks at the beginning of the season was pointing perhaps to a Georgia-Ohio State matchup in the national championship game. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this. Of course, right now there are 4 teams in the college football playoffs. But in 2024, the college football playoffs are going to expand to 12 teams. And that's going to alter a whole lot of what's going to happen in college football after the regular season, after the conference championship games. So from the Peach Bowl's perspective, what is your perspective on the expansion to 12 teams? How is that going to affect the Peach Bowl? What is it going to mean for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in 2024?
Well, it's going to be fantastic for us because contractually we will host a quarterfinal game in 2024, which will mean we'll host either number 1, 2, 3, or 4 against another opponent. And then at the end of that year, we will host the national championship game in Atlanta.
Cool.
And then in 25, we will host the national semifinal game of the expanded playoffs. So two great opportunities to be involved in the 12-team playoff, which I think is going to be great for college football. That'll allow more teams longer in the season to be have the opportunity to play in the playoff, number 1. Number 2, be great exposure because there'll be more networks involved in broadcasting. promoting the game of college football, which is already the second most favored sport in the country, only behind the NFL. And thirdly, it'll allow the players more participation opportunity with more teams getting the chance to play in the playoff and potentially for a national championship. So for all those reasons and more, I think it's great. And, we're going to start the season in 24, ironically enough, with Georgia versus Clemson in our kickoff game. So imagine having that game, which will probably be two top 5 teams, then a quarterfinal, which could be, two top 5 teams, and then the national championship, which will be the 2 top teams all in 1 year.
Yeah.
So quite a run that will be coming through Atlanta in college football. And it's one of the reasons why the media has called Atlanta the capital of college football.
Absolutely. Now, the Peach Bowl is officially the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl. I had someone ask me recently, well, what does that mean? Does Chick-fil-A just hand out sandwiches to everybody that attends the game? I said, no, it's a little more involved than that. Chick-fil-A has been a great partner with the Peach Bowl. Talk a little bit about that relationship.
Well, we're very blessed to have Chick-fil-A as our title partner. They're the longest sponsor of bowl game in the history of the bowls. We're going on our 26th year together. And I often tell people they know that their food is great, but their people are even better.
Yeah.
And so we're very blessed to have our partnership with Chick-fil-A. They make a huge media buy on ESPN as part of the deal, and then also activation and sponsorship and tickets for our game locally. And then we've partnered together to endow a scholarship at each university that plays in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So this year will be the 34th university that will have endowed a scholarship. We get $50,000 from the Peach Bowl, and Chick-fil-A matches that for kids in our John Lewis Legacy of Courage Scholarship Program that goes to Title I kids, which are underprivileged kids in Atlanta, number one. And if there's no one from Atlanta that applies to those schools, then kids from Georgia can apply. So it's something that it's been very dramatic, as a lot of these kids are the first kids to go to college from their families. And just this past year, we had 35 students get $293,000 in scholarship money to attend to various universities in the program.
Wow, that's fantastic. And we love Chick-fil-A, and we love peaches. We love the Peach Bowl. Now, when this game starts, when the kickoff finally happens and the game starts, does Gary Stokan get to sit back and watch and enjoy the game, or are you at a command center somewhere making sure everything is going smoothly? When the game starts, can you relax a little bit and actually enjoy the game?
Well, I do. I try to. I have different responsibilities during the game. We all do. It's like a coach. You have different roles on your team, and we do have somebody in our control center. But I'll stop by our board suite, our coach of the year, Dawgs suite, to visit with people. I'll visit with the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Famers, of which Champ Bailey is going into the Hall of Fame this year and will be our honorary captain for Georgia, I might add. And then I'll watch some of the game in the first quarter. We make some check presentations, so I have to be on the field for those. And then at halftime, I go up to the press box to check in with the media and do radio for both schools' radio broadcasts. And then watch a little bit of the game from up there and then come back down. And then after the game, we have trophy presentations. And then I'll go to both press conferences to thank the coaches for participating and wish the one team well going on to the national championship, and thank the other team for being so good to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So that's kind of a quick run of the show for me.
Wow, and I hope you get some rest before the game starts. It sounds like really a demanding thing. And, of course, we here at Dawgs on Demand, one of our partners, our president, actually is Georgia great Champ Bailey, as you noted, and as you mentioned, he has been this year selected as the honorary captain for the Georgia Bulldogs, been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. This year, of course, he's already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's almost in every Hall of Fame you can think of if it's related to football and he had any kind of association with it. In fact, Champ Bailey played in the Peach Bowl in 1998. He helped Georgia beat Virginia during that at that game, 35-33. It's pretty exciting for us here at Dawgs on Demand to have our partner Champ Bailey to be the honorary captain for the Bulldogs, and that means he'll be at the center of the field, right, for the coin toss, and he'll be recognized in that role, right?
Yes, we'll have him. And I was going to mention that, so I appreciate you doing it. He will be out with the captains for the coin toss at midfield, and then we honor the Hall of Famers during the game. So he'll be down on the field and be recognized there. And, it's special for me because I mentioned at the Georgia press conference with Kirby, my first bowl game as CEO was 1998.
How about that?
And I was in charge of the selection committee, and I selected Georgia and Virginia. And I remember the AJC headline was that Georgia is going to a third-tier bowl game.
Oh, my
Peach
goodness.
Bowl.
Yeah.
And so to see us come from there to where we are now, hosting Georgia at number 1 in the country, and for the semifinal of the national championship game, we've come a long way. And Champ, as I remember, was with Kirby on that team, and Champ scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
And I believe Champ was the MVP of the game. So it's going to be special for me to be able to see Kirby and Champ in a different light after 25 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. Champ Bailey was not a two-way player. He was a three-way player. He played offense, he played defense, and also he played special teams. He returned kicks for Georgia. Quite an amazing player. And, of course, as we here at Dawgs on Demand have been associated with Champ Bailey, he's a fine human being. He's a wonderful person. And we're so happy to have Champ being honored that way at the Peach Bowl coming up. Now, this game is on New Year's Eve, 8 o'clock. It'll start at 8 o'clock. And you know how these games go. You could go into overtime, and the game will stretch out. It could be that, before everything is said and done, we could be in a new year when this game is, finally coming to completion. So I kind of had go ahead. I'm sorry, Gary.
I was going to say, I joked with Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I said, we need to be prepared to have the stadium open its roof and have the peach drop at midnight, whether we're in our fourth quarter or possibly in our trophy presentation.
Yeah.
So I had those guys going for a little bit. They thought I was serious there for a while.
Well, my idea was, Atlanta has the peach drop, at midnight. My idea was, since this is the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl, why don't we get, one of the cows up at the top of the stadium and let him come down very gently to the playing field as midnight strikes. What do you think? How about a cow drop? How would that work?
Well, trust me, we've looked at bungee jumping, and we haven't been approved for that, but we did look at it. So you're along the right path.
Hey.
You think like I do.
There you go. Well, listen, Gary Stokan's been with us. He's the CEO, president of the Peach Bowl. He's been on our program today, and we're just so excited to be able to anticipate this game with Georgia playing in the Peach Bowl, of course, against Ohio State. Now, the other semifinal matchup is going to be quite interesting too. You have Michigan taking on TCU at the Fiesta Bowl out in Glendale, Arizona. So do you guys, have you talked with the guys at the Fiesta Bowl? Do y'all compare notes, or do y'all talk with one another about maybe ideas? Do the guys at the, who are in charge of these bowls, do you guys ever get together in a huddle and say, I have an idea, let's do this or let's do that?
Yeah, we talk every Friday, every 2 weeks during the year. And then we meet, we'll probably meet 3 times a year. So yeah, there's not only us, but our staff meet together as well and compare notes. And we all have our own distinct locales and geographies to make each trip a little bit different for teams that come into us. But there are certain things that we want to make sure that we're similar in the experience that players and coaches have. But tell you an interesting story. Back in 1970, which was, I believe, the third game of the Peach Bowl back then, North Carolina played Arizona State. And Arizona State was top 10, 9-1. Frank Kush was the coach, and they couldn't get into one of the bigger bowls. And George Crumbly reached out to Frank and invited them, and Arizona State came, played North Carolina. And Bill Dooley was the coach of North Carolina, and Vince Dooley told me this story that he started down on the field to watch the game, and it rained in the first quarter. It sleeted in the second quarter, and Vince was never so cold in his life. He had to leave the game. But Arizona State went on to win like 48-20 or something like that. And it snowed in the third quarter and iced in the fourth quarter.
Oh, my goodness.
The Arizona State people were sitting there and said, out in Phoenix, it's 80 degrees today. Why don't we start one of these bowl games? And so they started meeting with the Peach Bowl, and 2 years later, the Fiesta Bowl was created.
Wow.
So it's kind of ironic. You go from 1970 to 2022, and here we are both hosting the semifinal of the national championship game the same year. So kind of interesting story.
That is, and I guess you can say the Fiesta Bowl then was born in Atlanta. There you go. Indeed.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, Gary, it's been good to have you with us on our program today, and best of luck to you. We know it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great game, and we look very much forward to it. And thank you. I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking time out to talk with us today. Gary Stokan's been with us, CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. And we appreciate him being with us. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Dawgs on Demand would like to thank Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, for sponsoring our program today. When the time comes to finance or refinance your home, make the smart choice and get your home loan from Southeast Mortgage. Your friends at Southeast Mortgage are ready to help you. Visit southeastmortgage.com/UGA today for more information. Be sure to visit Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and our great interactive website, dogsondemand.com. Join us for our next program as we keep you up to date with the latest sports news from the University of Georgia and more. Until then, be safe and go Dogs.